right, so good afternoon. Most of the time when I'm doing public speaking, it's in a very dark room, and I'm in the back of the room with a laser pointer, and I can't see anyone, and so it's a little easier that way. But it turns out that a few rounds of Unreal Tournament is really good relaxation before talk. So nice to set that up. Just by way of introduction, I am the assistant director at the Planetarium here in Nashville. This is not me. For those of you who can catch that reference, I do love my work though. What I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about kind of old school planetarium technology, then kind of bring us up to the modern day and what we do in Nashville and some of the other technologies that are out there that make modern planetariums work. And so this, the picture that you're seeing right here is the first Fulldome Planetarium, which opened in 1952. 20-foot dome made of concrete and limited seating, it's kind of crowded there, and then this kind of funny-looking dodecahedron star projector there in the middle of the room. And pretty much all I could probably do in that room was look at the stars and planets and sun and moon and talk about that. So educational, maybe not as exciting as maybe some planetariums are today. At least I hope that they're more exciting these days. This is a picture of my first experience in a planetarium. This was my college job at the University of North Carolina at the Moorhead Planetarium. Big 68-foot dome, and that big monster machine there in the middle of the room is the Carl Zeiss Model 6, which I kind of think of as a fine watch about the size of a car. I really love these old Zeiss machines. They're beautiful, beautifully engineered. And sadly, they removed that machine from the center of the Moorhead Planetarium a few years ago. It was time for it to go, but I love those machines. And there was a time I used to know which each and every one of those buttons did on the console there. These days, I forget what that is. This is the Fulldome Planetarium as of 1994. The old dome you saw is no longer there, and this dome was constructed in 1974. And so you've got sort of the best of 60s, 70s, 80s technology in here. That star ball in the middle of the room is better, but it's kind of a tin can with holes poked in it and a really bright light in the middle of it to show you the stars. And you can probably see maybe about 3,000, maybe 5,000 stars on the dome using that machine. You can look all the way around the room there and see lots of very special effects, including a video projector way up there. And you look right underneath that video projector is a funny looking box right there. That is a warp drive. A friend of mine invented that. Basically, it allows you to have streaking stars on the dome like Star Trek. It was built out of the guts of an old overhead projector. Brilliant engineering to build that special effect. So lots of special effects all around the room, kind of analog sorts of things. Single shot slide projectors, kind of look like fire hazards to me. And sort of my favorite, the BFJs, the baby food jar projectors. Literally, you take a baby food jar, you paint it some swirls on it, you stick a bright light in the middle of it, and you rotate the jar around the light, and you get all sorts of kind of cool effects on the dome. It's like you're maybe swirling through the gases in the atmosphere of Jupiter or something like that. You've got some kind of weird sci-fi sort of thing going on. So really fun kind of home-built effects in lots of these old kind of classic planetariums. But no classic planetarium would be complete without dozens and dozens of clacketing slide projectors, all under automation. So during the show you hear, and then when you finish the show, you send them all to the home position again. They'll go, and it's very noisy, kind of fun. But anyway, we're kind of glad we're out of that sort of thing these days. Just one overhead view of the control console, and you see all the kind of different areas of technology here. Lots of 60s buttons and sliders and things, and if you actually pull those panels open, there's some kind of amazing spaghetti wiring in there. And then you've got a PC running DOS there on the right, which is the control system. And then if you want to light up that room with colorful lights, you've got hundreds of incandescent light bulbs all around the room. So anyhow, that had to go. We got the word in 2006 we could build a brand new planetarium. So 2007 the claw comes, and the claw gets my office first. That's my office right there. And I got off the bus to come to work, and my office was already gone. And it was kind of a sad day to see our home disappear like that. But it was good because we got to build this building. And maybe you're from Nashville, you recognize this building, or maybe you're driving down 8th Avenue, you might see this kind of off to the side, this pyramid building. And at night you'll see it lit up with lots of LED lights in different colors. And so that's us. That's the Pseudocom Planetarium, our new facility as of 2008. You look inside, and we've got this wonderful star projector in the middle of the room. I know this is not the greatest picture. It's a little hard to take photos in the planetarium sometimes just because of the lighting. But that machine right there is the Goto Chiron Hybrid Star Projector, which is kind of a mouthful of a name. But that's the machine that puts the stars on our dome now. The dome is 63 feet in diameter compared to the 40 feet we had previously. 166 seats. And you may see some of these little boxes here in front of the star projector. And those are all individual projectors to show planets, the sun, and the moon. And they're all under digital control, so you type in the console what date you want, and these things will all zoom to the place where they are in the sky, and does it pretty much instantaneously. So it's a very, very cool system we got there. We'll focus on the star ball here for a moment. This star machine is actually one of only about 10 or 11 in the world. We happen to have serial number 4 here in Nashville, so we're very proud to have one of these here. It's the only one outside of Asia of its kind. Now, this is the Chiron star projector made by Goto of Japan. And they've actually gone on to Chiron 2 and Chiron 3. 2 and 3 use LED lights. And Chiron 3 is actually about half the diameter of this one. It's amazingly small, and it can actually project stars into a dome much bigger than ours. So I'm kind of jealous of that one, but we're very happy with our star projector. Let's see if this, well, it's a little hard to see here in the room, but this is the star field, not of the real sky, but of our star projector sky. And you can see that actually the good number of the 6.5 billion stars that come from our star projector are along the Milky Way, so you can actually grab some binoculars and look in the planetarium dome, and you can see all those stars in the Milky Way individually. And you can actually look at the Andromeda Galaxy and see a little spiral structure in there too. So these are really pretty stars. Now, that's not the only system we have in the planetarium. We also have 2 of these kind of monster video projectors. This is the Sony SRX, and there's about 10,000 lumens. This thing weighs about 240 pounds, and we've got 2 of them. And each one takes it takes inputs from 4 different computers to make a 4K by 2K image. And we've got 2 of these projectors, so 8 computers driving the video for the planetarium. Each of those projectors has got a custom fisheye lens on it, which allows us to cover the entire surface of the dome with any kind of graphics we want. Now, this is called a hybrid planetarium because we're actually using the star machine and the digital system kind of at the same time. And so it might be a little bit hard to see, but you can see the stars coming from the star projector. If you look carefully, you can see the lines connecting the constellations, and those lines are coming from the digital system. They're coming from the front and back of the room, where the stars are coming from that machine in the center of the room. And so these two completely separate systems are talking to each other, and so when we start to move the star machine around, those animations, those graphics will follow right along with them. And so we're actually, I think, the only large planetarium in the United States that's got this kind of technology where these 2 systems are working together like this. And of course, in the old style kind of planetarium, you would have, maybe 5, 6, 7 different slide projectors which show one slide, and it's arranged in a certain location to put up the constellation figure in that one part of the sky, and you have to have the star projector in exactly the right spot to make that constellation figure work. Well, now we don't have to do that anymore. We can show you all 88 constellation figures, stick figures, mythological figures. We can do Chinese or Egyptian, whatever kind of constellation myths, all sorts of things. So it really kind of opens us up to a lot of storytelling in the planetarium. Now, of course, a digital system can also show you digital stars. And so there's actually lots of planetariums out there which only do digital systems. They don't have that big star machine in the room. And that's fine for a lot of people, but digital stars are still kind of limited because you have a resolution problem. Your brightest stars in a digital system are going to be kind of fat and fuzzy. And so really, really want to get the really very realistic night sky that only an optical star projector can provide to this day. One of the things that the company Goto likes to pride itself on is having a physical command console in the back of the room. Because, we do have now a nice point-and-click GUI where we could drop down and bring up all sorts of digital effects. But when you're in the dark and you're trying to talk about the nighttime sky, you're holding a laser pointer, you've got a microphone, really the last thing you want to do is punch over the computer screen and start pointing and clicking at stuff. So we've got all these nice buttons and slides and dials available to us for the most common things we're going to use in the planetarium. And Goto went so far as to actually make all the knobs on the console different shapes and different sizes, so that when you're in the dark, you feel a knob and say, no, that's not latitude. I want latitude. I need to move over here. So you can actually feel the differences in the knobs in the dark. So that's why they did that. So manual control is very important. Another bit of technology is noise abatement. Sometimes your audience gets a little noisy, and sometimes they just need a little help to keep quiet. Anyhow. So the digital software that we're using in our planetarium is called Digistar 5. It's made by a company called Evans & Sutherland out of Salt Lake City. And by far is far from the only system out there. It's the one I'm most familiar with because we use it every day. For that matter, there's other star projector manufacturers out there besides Goto, of course, too. That name Evans & Sutherland, well, that company goes back a ways. They did some special effects for a popular movie. Anyhow, this is what Digistar 5 looks like from underneath the console down in the computer room. Actually, Digistar 5 is just the rack on the right, that short one over there. That's Digistar 5. We upgraded actually last month to D5 from D3. D3 is the rack immediately to the left of D5. And so D3 is retired. It's going to become a render farm someday. I'm hoping very, very soon. To the left of that is an audio rack, so it's all sorts of audio gear for our 5.1 sound system. And then to the left of that is just some odds and ends, including a computer for lighting and sound control. And there's a DVD player and even a Laserdisc player, salvaged from the old planetarium. I don't know if I've ever used the Laserdisc player in the new place, but I guess it's nice to know it's there. Anyhow. So in that D5 rack there on the right, there are 8 graphics computers to feed those 2 Sony projectors, and each of those computers is sending out just a piece of that full image for the dome. And so they've got to be in sync with each other. So there's special sync cards in each of those computers, which are daisy chained one to the other, so that they can actually keep frame by frame sync between all those different devices. Because if one little eighth of your screen is out of sync, everyone sees it. So Digistar has some really nice kind of real-time effects. We're actually going to fly off the surface of the Earth here over Nashville, and we're going to fly to Mars. Digistar has all sorts of databases, planets, asteroid orbits, extrasolar planet database, galaxies, volumetric nebulae, and particle systems. You can actually fly through Saturn's rings and see the particles as you fly through it. And there's terrain for the Earth, Moon, and Mars. And so we're going to fly up on Mars here, and eventually we're going to land at the Valles Marineris and see what that looks like. Digistar's got its own custom scripting language, and I'm really excited now that D5 also has introduced JavaScript support. So I've been spending the past month writing JavaScripts to help out things in the dome. It also does Python, although I don't really know Python well enough to do much damage there. Anyway, we're going to fly down to this gigantic canyon on Mars and see we've got some real terrain there. Besides that kind of real-time sort of graphics that we have, we also will just play back pre-rendered programs as a series of 8 MPEG streams per computer and stitched together on the dome. This is a show we're running right now called Dynamic Earth, and there's lots of really cool supercomputer simulations of ocean currents and weather patterns and things. And there's also some great CGI sea creatures and things like that. The format that you're seeing here, by the way, you'll see this kind of circle. This circle kind of represents the outer edge of the dome. And so what you're seeing down here at the bottom of the circle is in front of the dome, it's in front of the audience. Stuff at the top of the circle right there is stuff that's behind the audience. So when we're kind of working on planetarium shows, you have to kind of remember to kind of work this circle around your head to kind of figure out what you're doing. So it makes a little bit more sense that way. Shows are typically output as big old image sequences. So you might get a stack of, several tens of thousands of JPEG frames or PNG frames or TIFFs or targets or whatever. And they're usually 30 frames per second, although we've done some work in 60 frames per second also. So those are kind of common frame rates. And then once you get that stack of dome masters, all those image files, then they get encoded into whatever playback system you have. There's way too many standards for playing back video in the planetarium. So it just kind of depends on what dome you've got as far as how you encode for them. We'll talk resolution a little bit. Our planetarium dome has a resolution of 4K. That's 4,096 pixels across, east to west and north to south. And so that's that pink circle there you see near the top. And you can compare that to HD and 4K monitors that you might have. And so 4K is kind of the sweet spot. There's some smaller planetariums out there down to maybe 1K, but those get a little bit fuzzy looking. So 4K is a nice way to be. 8K exists. There are just a small handful of planetariums out there that do 8K. Actually, the Adler Planetarium in Chicago has an 8K theater, and they get away with it because they have 20 separate projectors in their theater and 20 computers to drive it, and I can't imagine the headaches that it must cause. Trying to keep those things aligned. I believe there's some automatic alignment software out there that they use, but even then, I mean, one computer goes down, you've got a big hole in the screen, so that's just too many to me, I think. But that may be 8K may be where we're going. The other problem with 8K, of course, is production costs, and as every time you double the pixels, the production time and storage space goes up exponentially. So the question is if we're all doing 8K, is that finally enough pixels, or are we going to need more pixels? Well, there's some folks at the National Space Center in Leicester, England, who did a little bit of a study on this, and they figured out, to use Apple's parlance, if you're sitting in the center of the room, of the dome, 16K pixels will be retina. In other words, that you wouldn't need any more pixels. You can see as much as you can. I don't know anyone who's even thinking of doing 16K yet. 8K is already kind of crazy for right now. And then they went a little bit further and said, okay, what if you're in the front row? What if you're right next to the dome? What kind of resolution would you need then? It's something like 70,000 pixels. So yeah, not in our lifetimes, I don't think. Anyhow, famous last words. Anyhow, so we produce our own planetarium shows at the Studicum Planetarium. We will lease and purchase other shows we run, but we do produce our own. And so our most recent production was called Rusty Rocket's Last Blast, based on a slide program we did back in the 90s. So we kind of started from the beginning with fixing up the script and making sure Pluto is not a planet anymore, sadly. Making sure that Jupiter has the right number of moons and so forth. And re-recorded the audio track and redid all the graphics, and I did almost all the animation in this show, except for the character animation of Rusty Rocket himself. Incidentally, I don't know where Rusty Rocket got. I don't know where Russell Brand got his Twitter handle. I'm a little annoyed at that. All I know is that Rusty Rocket really wants that verified tag. Anyhow. So in the story in Rusty Rocket, which is kind of a show for kind of 3rd to 5th grade primarily, although we do bring it in bring the public in for it, and adults love it too. The story is Rusty is a teacher. He's a rocket, but he's also a teacher. He's going to be taking a group of rocket rookies on their tour of the solar system, so they can learn all about it and find out how far away all the planets are. And so they explore the solar system and the spacecraft that have come before. The kind of miniature story around this is that Rusty is planning to retire from teaching. And the kind of beginning of the show, he's daydreaming about all the things he's going to do when he has all his free time. So he's going to hang out with the grand rockets. He's going to go scuba diving. He's going to go out on the open road. Funny thing about that car down there, that car we needed a picture of a car that Rusty could drive in, and well, you know, we love Creative Commons images, but we couldn't find the car that was right at the right angle, that we had rights to use with the right lighting and the right background. So we actually traveled to the National Corvette Museum in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and so this is the 1.5 millionth Corvette ever made, which then about a year later fell in a hole. You heard about that, right? That big sinkhole there. Yeah, that was one of the cars that fell. So we're sad about that. We're glad Rusty got a chance to drive around. This show is almost entirely made in Adobe After Effects with some other, Photoshop and Illustrator kind of helping along too, and some specialized plugins to kind of help with the bending of images so they look right. I mean, you might notice that Rusty's car looks a little bit curved like that. That's because we're intending to show this on a curved screen. And so you have to bend it first to get it on the dome master image right there before you can project it on the dome. When you project it on the dome, he's going to flatten out. He's going to look like he's riding in a normal shaped car again. So some important plugins for Fulldome production if you're going to do it through After Effects. I think there's not a lot of people do stuff through After Effects for the Planetarium, but I decided to do it kind of a strange way. Anyway, so you've got CG modeling, you've got character animation like in Rusty Rocket. So how about some live video? Well, the problem is, you've got still cameras which could probably stick a fisheye lens on a still camera. You could probably get to that 4K image, but there's no video camera right now that's got that 4K vertical resolution, so you can just stick a fisheye lens on it and get that many pixels. You can do it with a 2K dome, and it looks a little fuzzy, but it looks all right on a 4K dome, but it's going to be just a little bit fuzzy. So there's no 4K solution yet. It may be a while before that happens. Some people are using red cameras, and they will do live action shots in front of green screens, and they'll take that imagery and then composite it into a 3D scene on top of that. So it may be a way to get around that lack of a really big, gigantic 4K tall video camera. Okay, so here's another thing you could do. You could get a bunch of GoPros and slap them together into a cube, like the Freedom 360 over here on the left. The one on the right there is called the Jaunt VR. I actually went to the Nashville Virtual Reality meetup a week or two ago and saw a little demonstration of one of these guys. And it looks like it's just more GoPros in there. But the idea is you take video from all those GoPros simultaneously, stitch them together in post, and you get some video back, and that will support 4K. There are some drawbacks, but we got to borrow one of these, in which we got to Nashville's Parthenon, and took some video there, and it looks kind of like this. It works pretty well. As it turns out, Athena, for better or worse, does not move around a whole lot, so we had to move the camera instead. And here in a second, we'll see a better view. We actually, here in a second, you'll see it. We took that GoPro rig, the Freedom 360, and stuck it through the sunroof of the car and drove down Broadway. And it looks like this. Really weird and dwarf like that here on this flat screen, but you take it into the Planetarium and that 63-foot dome, it really looks very cool there. And you can actually look down the windows of the honky tonks as you drive by and see what's going on inside. So it's also a little bit wobbly, just I think probably because I think the car needs a better suspension. So we don't own this particular GoPro rig yet. It's I think the rig and the software total, I think it's going to cost about $10,000. So I think we kind of need the big idea that why we need it first before we just go and buy it. PT GUI Pro is one of the bits of software that you might use to stitch all those video streams together. Another thing we did recently, we had a Doctor Who event at the Adventure Science Center, which is a really fun, popular night. And in case you're curious about it, Doctor Who Night is going to come back in January. And so I decided I kind of wanted to make the inside of the planetarium look like the inside of the TARDIS. I mean, I kind of think the planetarium is bigger on the inside, if you want to think of it that way. So I found a Easter egg on Google Street View. There's a blue box sitting on by the side of the road in London, and you walk inside and you can go through the TARDIS and kind of wander around. And I figured out a way to get that image out of Google Street View into this format, an equal rectangular format like so. And then from there, it's just a matter of warping it into this hemispherical image like so. I do document this on my website, evinscannon.com, so if you're kind of curious how to get images out of Google Street View, you can go there and try it out. A colleague of mine actually did this. He did a Google Street View Fulldome hyperlapse. There's a lot of words in that sentence. Anyhow, I want to learn how to do this, because, and if anyone knows the Google Maps API really well, I'd love to talk with you about how to actually, how you might do this a little more efficiently than he did, which was just go to each individual location, run the little script, and then go to the next location. I'd love to automate it so I can just have a path that goes around town and grabs all this imagery. But at the moment, I don't know how to do that. So, got some possibilities for things that can be played on the dome, which aren't necessarily science museum kinds of programming. And I love this quote from Spielberg about how maybe one day we'll be watching movies in a format like this. And so, kind of in that spirit, we're starting something, and this is the shameless plug coming, by the way. We're starting something in Nashville called Dome Club, which is kind of a venue for showing programming that's been made for Fulldome, which isn't necessarily kind of science center material. And so we just started earlier this month, and we've got some cool programs coming up in November, and we're going to skip December. We're going to go in January, and essentially every month after that. And so arts, entertainment, kind of experimental stuff. We know that there's some people doing kind of VJ work in smaller domes, and so doing live videos to music. Sounds kind of exciting. I haven't seen that done personally yet, and there may be some technical problems with getting that done in our dome, but I'd love to try it. There's a show, this is actually what we ran in a couple weeks ago called Homegrown Dome, which is a compilation of about 14 different shorts from different animators all around the world, and they're doing some pretty cool, innovative stuff. And this stuff that you see here is actually a little bit old. Some of these clips are between 5 and 10 years old, and so there's more and more stuff that's being made now, and I think this production is really accelerating. And so we want to provide that venue so that people can come see it, because a lot of it doesn't get seen outside of film festivals in planetariums, and there aren't a lot of those yet. So basically, we definitely want you to come by and see what we're doing. I will say that if you're kind of wondering if maybe Spielberg is right and that the Fulldome is the future of interactive, or the future of cinema, well, I don't know if that's true, but this exists. This actually ran at the Comic-Con in San Diego in July. And you can actually search this on YouTube and see it. It's someone took just a handheld camera and took a video of it, but it's kind of funny. Anyway, I know that somewhere in my in the description for this talk I said something about Oculus Rift, and then I realized I didn't really have much to say about it. It might be a really nice preview tool. I've used an Oculus Rift for about 30 seconds in my life. But the idea is that you could, if you're sitting somewhere at your computer station and you're trying to produce a Fulldome show and you don't happen to have a dome right next to you, you can put on the Oculus Rift and look around and maybe get an idea of what it's going to look like once you do get it to a dome. Anyhow, I thought I was going to have 20 minutes to talk. I actually had more than that, so I'm open to questions. If there's any questions at all? Anything? Yes?
Did your 30 seconds of Oculus Rift change your life?
No, but give me another 30 seconds in mind. Yeah, it was pretty awesome. Yeah, I'd love to try it some more.
How real was it?
I think it was on a DK1 at the time, so it was a little pixelated. But and unfortunately, I didn't. Even though I went to the VR meetup group a couple weeks ago, I didn't actually get a chance to see it there. But I hear it's a lot better, and I'm looking forward to trying it some more. So if you're in Nashville, there is a brand new meetup group for virtual reality. So it looks like they've already got a lot of people showing up for it. I think there was like 40 people last time. So really nice. I'm surprised that the one big question is hasn't been, can you play games on this thing?
Yeah.
Come on. And the answer is kind of. Actually, Digistar 5, as it comes shipped with JavaScript, has a JavaScript implementation of Pong, which you can play with a Microsoft Kinect. I haven't tried it yet. I actually don't have access to a Kinect yet. I may borrow one just to bring it in and see, but we really haven't had time to mess with that yet. I know with smaller domes, definitely if you have fewer video inputs, I mean, like I said, we've got to be able to split the input and output to 8 different computers. So that might be a little bit tricky for a start. But a small dome, sure, if you've got a planetarium with a small enough number of projectors, and you've got a game which can go to that kind of fisheye view, 180-degree field of view, sure, you can probably do it, yeah. And I think there's some people who have tried that. Flight Simulator would be cool, yeah.
Do you know when the first planetarium existed in the world? Or
Oh, the first,
showing the older pictures. I'm just
yeah,
curious.
the first planetarium. I think I want to say, and I don't remember the timing exactly. I think probably in Germany, and I'm trying to remember what the timing was. Probably. I'm suddenly drawing a blank on what it was. I'm thinking maybe the 20s or maybe before that. I know that in Chicago they've got something called the Atwood Sphere, which is just a big metal ball that you sit in, and they roll the ball around you, and the ball has little pinholes in it, and so it could simulate the rising and setting of stars that way. I think it probably was the Carl Zeiss company that made the first sort of star ball projector, the Mark I. And I want to say that might have been in the 20s or something like that. And it kind of depends on what you define as a planetarium also. Does that Atwood sphere, the big metal ball just sit in there with holes drilled in it, does that count? I guess it kind of counts. But then maybe does just a ceiling with stars painted on it count? I guess maybe sort of.
One of the maintenance on your equipment, you showed us the racks.
Yeah.
What is your replacement cycle, your failures, all that type of thing? What do you run into?
The sorts of equipment failures, of course, lamp hours is a big thing. Those 2 Sonys, you have to replace those lamps every. I'm trying to remember how many hours that is. Like 700 hours or something like that. You have to replace those Sony lamps. And those housings that every few times that you replace the lamps, you actually have to replace the housings also. And in a couple years from now, those Sony projectors themselves are going to have to get replaced too. So we're on the hunt right now for the right projectors that will provide the right brightness, hoping that something can be brighter than we've got now, that provides a really good contrast ratio. Because, if you're trying to show the nighttime sky and your darks are kind of gray, that doesn't look really good. So you want a really good contrast ratio in those projectors. And the lifetime of the lamps, the cost of the lamps, that kind of thing. So we're looking to find that right thing that we can afford to replace our Sonys with eventually. The Star Machine also has a kind of more traditional lamp in it that we have to change every now and again. And I forget how often it is, but not too often. I'm a little jealous of those LED star projectors that they've got now, that you never have to replace lamps ever, so that would be quite nice. Other than that, I think the big maintenance thing we've had to deal with is hard drives. Especially in the Digistar 3 system, we had some 2 terabyte hard drives from a certain company that they started to go bad very quickly. And we had to actually replace all of them. We actually had to convince them, yes, you actually do need to replace it because the whole batch of them is bad. That happened. Aside from that, after several years, we started to lose video cards one at a time. And those got replaced. But not too many of those. That's it. My boss told me when she hired me first, your job in the planetarium, some days you're going to be exploring the universe, and some days you're going to be scraping chewing gum off the floor. It's about true. Anything else? Happy to talk with you afterwards. Actually, unfortunately, I'm not going to get to stay the whole conference. I'm going to have to leave probably around 4 o'clock or so today, but love to talk with you individually, and we definitely want you to come by, see the planetarium, and if you're from out of town, see your local planetarium, because they want to see you too. All right? Thanks.